And welcome to the Sister Show. I'm super excited about today's show because we're talking about body positivity, loving your human bodysuit. And we have some special guests today. Dr. Mary Pritchard, she is streaming in live from Boise, Idaho, my old hometown, yay. And Ms. Holly Dresson from Florida. Aaron Martin from Texas, and of course Nancy. She usually is coming to us from California, but she's joining us today from Oklahoma, and here I am in Texas too. So we have two Texans on the call. And so, you know what, Nancy, I just really want to dig in. I know we have a lot to talk about today, and I'm really super excited to really get a lot of diversity going on in this conversation. So Nancy, I'm going to pass it on to you and let you kind of dig into this awesome topic.
Yay. So before I give my question, because I think I'm super excited to hear what everybody has to say in their stories, but I think one thing that, I wanted to, when it came to this topic, I didn't realize that I had such a big issue with it because when I was younger, I was like 70 pounds. So, in high school when people are like, oh my God, are you anorexic? Like I had no body. So even though I was like 17, 18, I looked like I was 12. And so it kind of like hit me where I was never really that confident with myself, with my body because of that reason. And then all of a sudden I got to college and I gained all this weight and it was like, whoa, where's this coming from? So I've been carrying that for a while until about a couple years ago I decided to do a bikini competition to like really get out of my comfort zone. I've never really been athletic. So I really wanted to see if I could do the discipline, the training, like all of that put together. And interestingly enough, I hit my max. I did everything I could. My girlfriend, who's a supermodel, she trained me. So it was amazing. But what's so funny is that even though I look at the pictures and, everybody that's look at the pictures and they're like, gosh, you look so good. I could see it in my eyes and other people could see it. Like you, Jena, I remember when you saw the picture, there was still something in that picture that said, I'm still not confident. And interestingly enough, even though I was in the bathing suit and I looked amazing in everybody else's eyes, there was still something inside that I still was that little girl from like back in high school. So I was still covering myself and it was like, whoa, I didn't even realize that until afterwards. So my question comes from that experience where, at what point do you realize that it's a mental state of mind that's blocking you from having the body that you've always wanted? And I'm going to send that question right over to Mary. So would you mind sharing some of your, thoughts on this?
Oh, I would love to. I think it depends on at what point you're talking about your conversation in this journey that you had, especially with bodybuilding, because we know that your experience is not unique. So 90 to 95% of women, 80+% of men don't like what they see when they look in the mirror, and it doesn't matter what weight they are. So the mental aspect in terms of body dissatisfaction, it's almost everything. Somewhere between 5 to 10% for women and about 15% for men is due to physical causes, but for the most part, the body image dissatisfaction, it's our perception of ourselves, and we feel like we're never good enough, and it doesn't matter how much weight you lose or how much muscle you put on, there's that aspect. But I think the other part comes in when you're actually talking about what can you accomplish with your human bodysuit, and you have to understand that if you have a large bone build, you are never going to be a size 2. It is just not physically possible. So I want to bring that into the conversation too, because so many of my clients as a body love coach come to me with really unrealistic expectations of what their body can actually look like. And so you can't neglect the physiology. And while you may have, and I'm sure we're gorgeous in your bikini competition, there are a number of individuals who would never be able to have your body type and be able to do that kind of competition and be at the size that you were able to be because of their own physiology, their genetic makeup, their bone builds, their percentage of body fat and muscle mass, and they just can't change. And so When we're talking about body dissatisfaction, it's almost entirely mental. When we're talking about your own body image, though, and what your body could actually be at its peak, that's an entirely different question, because my body is not your body, and so my peak is not your peak, because we're different. We're two different people. So I really want to acknowledge the fact that you still have to think about genetics, and you have to think about what's physically possible for your body. Are there mental blocks? Absolutely. I have a number of clients that I help who are overweight that are trying to lose weight, and that can lose weight, but they're hiding behind their weight. And it's very much a psychological issue. So I think that the answer to your question is it depends on who we're talking about, what they're trying to achieve, and what's really even possible for them. But to understand that even if you achieve what's possible, the majority of us still aren't going to be happy. And that's just the sad state of where we are in the United States today, with the percentage of people who don't like what they see when they look in the mirror. It's normative. When 90 to 95% of women and 80+% of men don't like what they see when they look in the mirror, we have a problem, in my mind. And that's why I'm so glad Holly's on the call, because a lot of my clients come to me really not for themselves, but because they've, like Jena had mentioned before we started the call, they've realized, oh my gosh, what messages am I giving my daughter? And so it becomes a much bigger issue. So I hope that answered your question, Nancy.
It did. And you know what, it's funny that you do mention that, and it's interesting because, it made me really dig deeper into why. Like, I look decent, I look fine, I'm not overweight, I'm healthy, so why am I still not content with who I am and what I have? And then I thought about it, and then, I look back at, like, for example, my mom, she's, at whatever age, 50 plus, and she has never in her life gotten into a bathing suit, like, ever. Yeah. Because of traditions, because of just body, because of, conservative, whatever it may be. So then I realized it's actually deeper than just me. It comes from, like, generations back, where if you were wearing, a low-cut shirt, you're getting, like, slapped on the back of your legs, or, whatever it is. So, it's interesting that you say that, because you do, like, as you dig deeper into these issues, it's sometimes not even just you, but it's stuff that's coming from, like, generations back. And so that's interesting that you say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I really appreciated that answer too, and it kind of it reminded me, I have a 22-year-old daughter, and she's gone through, some changes in her own body, but it was interesting to hear her. She actually came in a live call. We had a call on this topic, something similar, and she shared her experience, how she did something like you, Nancy. She went and got into the best shape of her life, and she still was feeling those feelings inside about herself. And so I think that just what Mary was tapping into, it goes even deeper than even on the mental plane. I think there's a whole makeup. At least that's my, that's my take on it. And so, Erin, I actually would like to take a moment and really let each of you, I didn't get to fully introduce you. So if we could go around so that the audience kind of knows. So Mary, do you mind just sharing who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll pass it over to Holly and then over to Erin.
Absolutely. So I'm Dr. Mary Pritchard. I currently live in Boise, Idaho, where I am a professor of psychology at Boise State University. I also have my own company where I coach women who suffer from body image dissatisfaction. So I help them reclaim body love and really get to love the woman that they see in the mirror and accept her for who she is.
Awesome, awesome. And how about you, Holly? I'm so happy to have all of you guys on this call.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm born and raised in Florida. I'm a Florida native. I'm a mom of 4. And can you see me? It doesn't look like you can see me. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, great, dear. Okay. So I had all my babies in my 20s. I grew up with a morbidly obese mother, and I was always defending her and and sticking up for her, and when people would say bad things about her, and I just couldn't understand why people were like that, and so that journey, she's been gone about 10 years now, so I only was able to enjoy her. Mother's Day is tomorrow, and I'll be without my mom. This will be my 10th Mother's Day without her. And after I had all my kids in my 20s, I used to keep everybody secluded, away from everybody, because I was so worried about others. People are mean. People are just mean, and they would say terrible things to me. Oh, you're too young to have all those babies, and so in my journey, I just recently turned 40. I've just learned so much about people, and learning to ignore those things. I always knew I was different. My name is Holly Dresson. I'm here to revolutionize the way women of all ages show up in life by pausing, reflecting, moving forward, and having the confidence to do so. I believe I can teach that because I've learned that. You cannot teach what you don't know, and I know this through life experience. Part of who I am is I've been in direct sales for, I don't know, probably a better part of 10 years, and I found a home with who I am. I've been organic since I was a mom when I turned 21, and I help people out of their comfort zones. I really believe that that's important, and sometimes your comfort zone is just your zip code. You just need to get out and meet new people, go to a different grocery store and meet all these different people. I have always been different. There aren't many 40-year-old women that have this little kind of short haircut that I do, but you know what? I've had long purple hair before. I've had long blue hair before, and you know what? And it was just part of my journey. And nobody is going to understand your journey because it's not theirs to understand.
Yes. Oh, thank you for that. There's so many flavors to you, Holly, and I'm appreciating you so much right now. And so, Erin, can you tell us a little bit about you and even a little bit about your journey?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to get into a little bit more with me probably later on in the show, but I just want to say, first of all, I'm so excited to be here to be able to talk to you ladies and to be able to talk about the topic that we're talking about, because I feel that a lot of times in our society, there's a stigma against actually talking about stuff like this. And for one, I am very excited that we're able to have this conversation. And I just wanted to pause and take a moment for what Holly said, and this resonates with me big time, and I really didn't understand. You can't teach what you don't know. And I'm Aaron Martin. I'm currently a teacher. I'm the department head down here at the middle school in Goliad, Texas, for special education. And you can't teach what you don't know. That resonates with me so much. A lot of my kiddos that I see, since I work in a middle school setting, there are men they're still children in my eyes, but there are men and there are women in this school that struggle with body image every day. You can stand here in between periods and just hear all the negativity that are flowing through the halls, and it's, I have to wonder about the, where that's coming from, where that stems from, what's the reason that, kids are so focused on their self-image. Is it the media? Is it the parenting? There's so many different outlets that they could be getting that from. But with Holly saying you can't teach what you don't know, I directly agree with that. And Holly, I loved how you said, I've always been different. I've always been weird. There's a saying on my door outside just to let the middle schoolers know. And I have it big. And it says, if you're not weird, you're not normal. So I always like to think, and I tell my middle schoolers and all my students that, everybody's weird, just people are afraid to show it. And once they get out of that shell and crack that open, they'll find out that everybody's weird. And that's actually the normal. So I'm excited to be here and to continue with this conversation.
Awesome. And so this is like stirring up so much, because I find in these shows that there's so much that is brought up that we could really have an even longer conversation. Super happy to have each one of you guys. As you can see, we have a lot of diversity. Nancy and I really love digging in deep into these hot topics and in a loving way, because I always think that that is part of the unconsciousness that happens in society, is because it's like, you know, turn your face to stuff instead of, you know, really talking about it. And I believe that sometimes it's just they know not what they do. I use that terminology a lot. But Holly, I have something that I just kind of want to share with you. Coming from, you know, being a mom, you're a mom of 4 girls. You know, I have
3 girls.
Oh, 3 girls. Okay. So I have 1 daughter, and not that we can't pass things on to boys, but I knew and it took a few years to realize this, but some of my own self-bodied insecurities, I guess you would call them, about my own self, and I see that I kind of got those from my mom. So I'm seeing a pattern here, just like Nancy said. You know, something that was always used is, oh, you know, big thighs and, you know, hips run in our family, like, you know, the whole body type. But consciously, I was always super conscious. I was an athlete, a gymnast, so I had very muscular legs. And now I look at, you know, pictures and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I would kill to have my body that I had then. But I was always really conscious, even though I was always felt as a mom, I was uplifting and telling her really loving things. She was watching me. And now she says the same things. It's almost like I see where I'm saying the same things that my mother said, and she's saying the same things. And, you know, of course, I'm not beating myself up as a mom. Do I have regret? No, I don't really like that word either. But yet there is a layer of me that wants to just grab moms and just tell them, you know, when you know better, you do better. And so let's do things differently because they're watching you. And I just want, I was just curious if you have any experience in that with your daughters, Holly.
Absolutely, babe. I mean, my oldest, she's 18 years old. I also have a 14-year-old daughter. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I have a 9-year-old son. And they're all just so different, and I love how different each one of them are. And when I, you know, just to back up a minute, you know, I turned 40 December 30th, and I made a promise to myself, because I had heard my mom for so many years tell me that I was the reason why she gained so much weight. I would hear that it's my fault all the time, okay? And that's wrong, okay? That was embedded in my head. And I told myself, you know, after I had all my babies, I'd run a full marathon, all these things that I did and I experienced on my journey. I still told myself that I was going to be in the best shape of my life when I was 40. So here I am, what are we, 5 months into the year. I'm 40 years old in 5 months. I've lost 25 pounds, and I'm going to live as long as I possibly can. And because my mom couldn't teach me. She couldn't teach me about nutrition. She couldn't teach me about confidence because she didn't have any of it. She didn't have any of it. So here I am, this light that I share and I turn on every single morning for my kids. We get in the morning, I drive them to school, we pray in the morning. I have empowerment cards that each of my kids, including my 9-year-old son, that he pulls, because I really believe that everything happens for a reason. If you're pulling that card, you need to hear that message. If we're turning that page in Joel Osteen's breakfast morning book, you know, chapter book that we have, we need to hear that there is a lesson in that. There is always a blessing in the burden, and we as people, we need to realize that and pause, reflect about it, and then move forward. Because what happens if you stand in this area, you become stagnant. And what happens with things with stagnant, like think of stagnant water, you stink. Nobody wants to be around that. You know, and so the people that I attract people like me. I believe in the law of attraction. I believe that you attract people that you are like, but I also attract people who look up to me. You know, how is it that you're doing this? Why is it that you're doing this? And sometimes the why doesn't really matter, because that's for me to know and for them to either figure out or find out when I'm darn good and ready to tell them. However, we all have a journey. We are all different. I've always stood out in one way or another, whether it's my loud voice, whether it's my hair, because that's just my signature thing. I don't always have to put my face on, even though my last name is Dresson, and dress off, face on, face off. Anyways, that's another story. But you are an individual. It is important for you to shine your light from within so other people can see it, because it gives them the confidence to do the same thing. As my kids, they lean on us for comfort. And sometimes we don't always have those people as women, as men. We don't have those people to lean on and say, hey, you know what? You're doing great. You look great. And so what I've done is I've actually created the environment that I want to live in. So for example, when my daughters have their girlfriends come over, they're not allowed to call me Miss Holly. Want to take a guess as to what I have them call me? No, okay. I have them call me beautiful. Hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful. Good night, beautiful. I want to hear those things. And so if I was to share something of value for people that are listening, most everybody has a smartphone, and we have reminders on our phones that we can give ourselves. And I have these strategically placed throughout my day. I have one in the morning says, you are blessed. The other one says, be better than you were yesterday. The other one says, take care of you. And the one right before I go to bed at night at 10 o'clock at night, Eastern Standard Time, says, you are beautiful. And you know what happens is when I have those reminders, those text messages, they come to me through my phone. It's a ding. It makes me pause. It makes me reflect, and it makes me move forward. It really is that simple, and so many people complicate that process of being confident because it comes from within. Those words that you have, that you say in the mirror or you say in your head, they're so, so very important. And this is because I know now I can teach. We were just talking about that, Erin. I've learned that is the secret to my confidence. The secret to people's success, that movie with Michael J. Fox, the secret of my success. The secret of my success is giving myself the confidence that I need, and whatever that may look like to me, and whatever it may look like to you, ladies and gentlemen, you need to figure that out and focus on that and make yourself better for the people that you're surrounding yourself with, especially the next generation coming up.
I love that, Holly. Thank you for sharing that. I love the pause and reflect. And are you guys hearing an echo?
It just went away.
Okay, good. Technology, gotta tell you, we gotta just laugh at it, right? So honestly, on that, I would really, say that the pause and reflect, that's huge, and I love all of the things that you added to that. And so I just wanted to ask Erin if he had anything that he wanted to add onto that. Did that spark anything of what she was talking about?
Well, I mean, it kind of fires me up, to be honest. I mean, I never thought of taking a reminder throughout, just using a piece of technology that we have every day, and to be able to build in certain reminders to let us stop, to let us, we're always in this rat race of, I have to do this tomorrow, or I have to do this, and I should have all these different things done an hour ago. And it's, we live in that perpetual rat race, I think, and to be able to pause and take a step out, I'm just thinking of all the things I can translate to my students of what we need to do. Like I wake up in the morning, and I have a message, my alarm goes off, and it says attitude of gratitude. And, but I never thought of branching that out even more. For some reason, I limited myself into just one little, well, good morning, how are you doing? But I liked what Holly was talking about building your world, about building your universe to how you would want it to be. And first of all, the confidence that is coming off of you is it's attracting. Does that make sense? It's like you want to be around people who have that kind of confidence, and it's amazing that you have found it at such a young age.
Erin, I would love for you to dig in and kind of just share with everyone kind of your journey, and then maybe we can pass it on back to Mary and let her give some of her expert advice on some of these things that we're kind of bringing up to the surface.
Absolutely, and I'll just start about me. If you would have met me about a year ago, you probably wouldn't have recognized who I would look like right now. I'm currently down 170 pounds. since July. So it's actually came off real quick and super excited. But my journey started off when I was very young. My journey, I was never an overweight child until I hit about the period about 8 years old. And then unfortunately, sexual molestation came in and some trauma happened in my life that was not a positive thing. And how I related to food and went down this addiction cycle is to be able to cope with those emotions. I didn't have outlets. I grew up out in the country where I couldn't go and hang out with my friends all the time. They were just too far away. So to be able to cope with the emotions and the stuff that I felt like I was in control of, I was in control of food, and I could control that. And I can control what I would eat, the amount I eat, when the time was. It's a sense of control. It's an illusion I was in control, which really, and I wasn't. I was spiraling out of control. So by the time I was 15, I weighed 330 pounds as a middle schooler. And talking about, I see all these middle schoolers walking every single day, and I see the hurt in their eyes of, them being bigger, them being smaller. We would come in all shapes and sizes. It doesn't matter what you look like. But even I work with a student that I talk to him every day, and he's not worried about how big he is. He's worried about how tall he is. And he's worried about that he won't be able to get a wife in the future because he is his height. And really, in fact, he's 5 foot tall for a 13-year-old. We looked up statistics, and he's right where he needs to be. But it has such a grasp on him that of his height that he can't let go of it. And so as I'm 15 and I'm weighing 330 pounds, my image and my look upon myself, it was horrible. It was probably as low as you could get. But yet, I'm a very religious person, very spiritual person. I always had that glimmer of hope that there was going to be change. So I ended up about my 10th grade year deciding that I wanted to change, and I went for it. I went for it. I don't know to this day where I got the strength to do it, and I went and lost 120 pounds on my own by running on the side of a road for a mile every single day. And I started off, I call it my diet of stick with it. It's called stick with it. I would literally pick up a stick from a tree, and I had my very own stick, and I would run as far as I can. As soon as I stopped, I would drop the stick, say good job, say a little prayer, turn around and walk back. In 24 months, I ran 672 miles. It was from Twin Falls, Idaho to San Francisco. I did the math there, and I lost 120 pounds. And I was sorry if you hear a bell. I'm in my classroom right now. But the level of accomplishment right there, and the self-esteem that flooded into me was ridiculous. I went through a cocky phase because I did not know how or what to do with the level of confidence that I had. I lost a lot of friends because of it, and I start to look back on those tribulations and understanding that, well, my friends liked me for my personality of being a person that would turn the other cheek and cower. And when I'm coming out of my shell and I'm feeling proud, and there's that Katy Perry song "Roar," my daughter loves it. When I was roaring like a lion, and people either love it or they hate it. They either love it or they hate it, and you can't control what somebody else does. So you just got to go with it. That's life. And then as I got into college, I gained it all back, ladies. I gained it all back, and then I gained some more because I didn't have a coping mechanism and the understanding of how to deal with my body. I had no idea what to do, so I gained it all back. And I decided that I was going to make a change, and I decided to get gastric bypass surgery. And that's something that I researched a long time, and I got it. And this is only a tool that I'm using. I've lost 170 pounds, yes, but it's never about the weight. It's always how I feel. So in behind my head, it's always, what are these emotions that are playing? And I tell you that my wife and I, we built our relationship on watching good movies and, eating pizza and enjoying life. Well, now I can't do that now. So now I'm running into some relationship issues and different personal issues because I still, to this day, do not know how to grasp with those emotions of my self-esteem. So it's crazy to understand that this thing that you think is little with emotions and understanding your body is actually a bigger realm and universe that you have no idea how to control, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe I'm trying to control something that I shouldn't be controlling. So right now, that's what I'm wrestling with. I may have lost 170 pounds, but when I look in the mirror, I still look 415 pounds. I don't look 250 or 250 pounds.
Aaron, that is
it's
spot
like
on.
it is what it
Spot
is.
on. Yeah, and I love this right now, and I'm loving you, Aaron, with just your journey. And honestly, it really choked me up because, oh yeah, I really don't think, and I know Mary's going to dig deep in here, I'm sure of it, but you know, it's not really about the weight, which is what it's all about. When Nancy was mentioning that she was small and she still saw herself a certain way, I also can relate to that as well. So I'm very interested to hear your take on it, Mary.
Oh, you know, what we are seeing, just from the academic perspective, what we're seeing in our society today with all of the negative messages that we get about our bodies and how you should be thin, or now it's lean and toned, right? So now skinny is strong is the new skinny, right? That's the slogan everybody's putting out there. But it's still giving you the message that you're not good enough as you are. And so as a society, we have an increase in something called body dysmorphic disorder, and it's just what the two of you were talking about. So body dysmorphic disorder is when you look in the mirror and you see yourself completely inaccurately. And it's what Nancy was experiencing when she was doing her bikini competition. It's what Aaron is experiencing now. It's what you've been talking about, Jena. It's this misperception of how you think you actually look. And what happens when we go through significant body transformations, weight loss, weight gain, is that our minds kind of get wired, and so they get stuck. And it's like we have to, it takes a lot for us to get out of that place where we're stuck and to really see ourselves accurately. And because we're constantly bombarded with messages about how we're supposed to look, regardless of whether or not it's even physiologically possible. I mean, you know, like what, less than 1% of the population can actually meet the criteria to be a supermodel, and yet that's what's on the cover of a magazine, is that supermodel who's then been photoshopped after 2 hours of hair and makeup, right? So it's never, no wonder we have this feeling that no matter how much weight we lose, or how, for men, the men that I see, you know, how much muscle they put on, it's never good enough. And I think that that gets back to what Holly was saying, because, you know, I love the reminders. I do that too. I love the first thing in the morning. I have my vision board across from my bed, so it's the first thing I see and the last thing that I see at night. But from the research, from the science perspective, it's so important to build in those pause and reflect, and to really surround yourself with positivity, because that's what helps rewire your brain. That's what helps you see yourself as good enough, no matter what your size, and it's what helps you get to be more accurate in your own perceptions of yourself, because we're usually really, really harsh and hard on ourselves. We're very negative when it comes to us. And from a brain science perspective, those negative messages are actually 5 times more powerful than positive ones. So what Holly does, I do what Aaron does, but I take it further. I wish you could see my house and my office. Every wall has messages on it. I literally surround myself with positivity, because everywhere you look out there in the media and the grocery stores, the billboards, the magazines, TV, we're constantly being bombarded with these messages, you're not good enough. And you can bet that that sinks in, and we take it to heart. We internalize that stuff. And so when I was, I tell a little bit about my own journey, I was the opposite. So I grew up in Texas, and like Nancy was talking about, I didn't have to worry growing up about my weight until I hit high school. Then I started putting weight on because I was an emotional eater. I was using food as a coping mechanism to get through my parents' divorce. And then suddenly people weren't complimenting me on my appearance anymore. So I went to college, and instead of gaining the freshman's 15, I lost it. Instead of gaining the sophomore 10, I lost it, because I got so controlling, like Aaron was talking about. I got so controlling around food, and I was so paranoid growing up in the South, growing up in Texas, we're really taught in that society, especially, I don't know what it is about the South, and this is true everywhere, it's not just the South, but we're really taught that our appearance is everything. And growing up in Dallas in particular, my mom was always obsessed about her weight. She was part of the junior league. She wanted me to be a debutante. She wanted me to have a coming out ball and do the whole Southern thing. And that's the pressure to look a certain way and be thin so that boys will like you was always there. And so I went in the polar opposite perspective, and I used my control to restrict my food intake and see how little I could get away with eating. And so I struggled with borderline anorexia nervosa for about 2 decades. I mean, it got really bad because I was using, it was all about, like Erin was talking about, I had a misperception of what I looked like. I had body dysmorphia. And I needed control. And the one thing I could control in my life in the midst of the turmoil was food. I got to decide when to eat, what to eat, how to eat, who to eat with. And instead of eating to cope, I restricted to cope. And so, coming out of that and healing myself and really going down my own journey, it was absolutely about having to rewire my brain. And that's when I started doing the research on body image and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And the things we've been talking about, surrounding yourself with positive messages, putting those reminders on your phone, having it be the first thing you see in the morning, the last thing you see at night. I can't stress enough how important it is to surround yourself with positive messages, because you go out to the real world, you're probably not going to get them. And that's the sad fact of where we are in our society today. It's very rare to get a positive body image message on the cover of a magazine or on the internet or on a TV show. It's all about losing weight and having a certain body image that for most people isn't even realistically possible. So
it's that you say that, Dr. Mary, because here in LA, it's what it is. Because it's funny, because I did like a 14-day juice cleanse. And I did it when I went to visit my mom, who actually lives in Idaho, and I wasn't eating anything. I was just drinking juice, and she was just kind of looking at me like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, it's healthy for you, and it's not. But the reason I was doing it was because, oh my gosh, like, beach season is coming. I have 2 months, and I was like going into drastic mode, like, okay, juicing for 14 days, and then I'll go, like, you start getting like a little crazy. And then I was also working, I was human resources for a nightclub, and all the girls, they're literally getting judged by a panel in bikinis walking in, like, are you a cocktail girl? Nope. Look, do you see how she has an inch too much there? I mean, I was there watching them happen. And so then I started like, oh my God, I have another inch left. Okay, I cannot be in a bathing suit. And just it eats at you again. And I'm like, like, why am I doing this again? Like, what the heck? So even with us, in LA, it's like that, where, I'm watching these girls literally eat burgers and sweets and the whole works, and they are this big. And then I think, are they getting something? Are they getting injections? Is it really the way that their metabolism is? Or is it, there's all these things that start coming up, and then you even start kind of thinking like, maybe I should get like just like the body freezing, blah, blah, blah. There's like all these little things start coming, and you're like, what am I doing? I'm 1 inch of whatever, and I'm freaking out. Like, okay. And it's like Holly said and Erin said, it's like you stop, and you're like, what is going on? So that makes total sense for me.
It's amazing. I'm listening. Oh, sorry, I just jump in real quick. It's amazing that as I'm listening to this, it doesn't matter if you're 430 pounds versus you're 120 pounds. The similarities of what's going on, they overlap each other. It doesn't matter the size. We keep talking about this. It doesn't matter the size that you are. It's body dysmorphia. That's what's going on. But it's like where I'm at, I'm just like I said, it doesn't matter about the weight. I'm very proud of what I've done, but where do I start? How do I start jumping in there to surround myself with positivity, or positive, however you say it, a lot of positive energy, yet taking that first step, that's very frightening in my eyes.
If I can just interject here for a second, one of my children is an aspiring model, actor, singer, So here we go. We have all these, you know, I have athletes. I have, you know, my daughter wants to, or is majoring in finance. And my second oldest, she's 14. She's taller than I am. And, you know, I'm about 5'5". She's about 5'6". She just did her first movie. She's got all these different things coming at her. But it isn't without these, and I'm sure, you know, maybe all of you can relate, these hidden jealousies that are happening online, in person, and, you know, it's wrong, because I think, you know, at this point we're at the age where we either have children or know people that have children, and it's up to us to build our kids' confidence up so much that they don't even hear what society is telling them. But when you have what happened to my daughter the week before she was to appear on her movie, she was on her first movie set on Wednesday night, she had a young lady slap her across the face, and her handprint was on her face, made the inside of her mouth bleed. So as a parent, okay, I had to pause. I had to reflect on this. I couldn't, you know, I didn't put it out to social media. I'm very active on social media, and I think it's important to be able to be connected when you can't connect. Okay, and so we really had to think about this as a family. We had the opportunity to press charges against this other little girl who was supposedly my daughter's friend. Okay, but you know what? We looked at it. We were just like, you know what? We're just going to let this lie, and we're going to find this blessing in this burden. And what it actually happened, what it helped me be a better parent. I mean, I'm always open to learning how to be a better parent, okay? But it taught me a lesson. You know, we think we're teaching our kids, and we think, you know, Erin, you're a teacher. You think you're teaching those kids, but they're actually teaching us. You know, it's so important for us to always learn. You know, growing up, when I was growing up, I thought I was, when I graduated high school, I was going to know everything. Well, boy, was I wrong. You know, and I think it's up to us to reflect upon that as people and be like, you know what, oh my gosh, I just learned how to teach my daughter how to deal with these certain situations. I just taught my daughter how to deal with social anxiety. I have another one, you know, that's very much a hermit, and she loves staying in her four walls. And you know what? That is okay. You know, I believe, you know, and now as my kids get older, they may come back to me and say, well, Mommy, I wish you would have done this. I wish you would have done that. But I really believe I'm doing the best that I know how. Just as my mom, she really was doing the best that she knew how. She couldn't teach me about nutrition. The only thing on my table growing up that was fruit was applesauce. Let me tell you, I loved applesauce. I would dunk my ham in applesauce, my pork, my steak, my chicken, whatever it was. I dunked it in that applesauce because I loved it so much. And then when I became a parent, I became organic. I became more aware. And I think aware is only a 5-letter word, but it's a really big word. Wouldn't you agree? That once you're aware of this, you're aware of that, and you take those principles into what you're doing so you can teach others, I mean, I think that's really big. That awareness, that inner strength that you have to have. I'm not a television person. I don't watch TV. I ignore society. If there's something in fashion, I do not know about it. It's just something I've always avoided. I've always had my own style. I've always done my own thing. And I really think, because just like you were saying, the sexual abuse, you know, that happens more times than I care to think about. And if anything, I teach my girls and my son to protect themselves no matter what, and protect the family. You know, I have this big family. I was the only girl of 3 older brothers from my dad's previous marriage. When my parents married, my mom and dad married, they had me. Well, I grew up from jealousy ever since I was a little girl. And I mean, I'm just recently, now my brother, I only have one brother left. The other 2 are deceased. He's almost 50 years old, and we're still dealing with that. What is wrong with us as people? We're not doing these conversations enough, like you're having here today. We're not getting out and hugging people and boosting people up. Instead of talking about all the problems that we have in general, why don't we talk about all the things that make us happy and talk about how blessed we are, right? Isn't that going to make such a difference?
Absolutely. And Holly, you hit on so many things. And as I'm listening and loving at all of this, the contribution that all of you are talking about, something that just keeps coming up to me is how it's bigger than even just about the body image. We're comparing, because I even think, even as an entrepreneur, as a mom, think of all the things that we do and we're like, oh, we could be so great. Like, I'm thinking of someone, I'm not going to call her out, but I know if she watches this, she's going to know I'm talking about her. But she's this amazing woman. Like, she's got, she's going for a doctorate. She's got all of these certificates. She does, an extremely good athlete, but it's never enough. And so she's always looking at other women and comparing herself. And, something that is coming to me, it's really about, and this is my take on it, but it's really about, because Erin, you said, so how do you deal with it as you go through, you start this unhealthy pattern. I don't even want to label it as unhealthy. Let's just say that was your experience coming together with your wife. Now you're aware, as she's saying, you're aware. For me, it's about those unconscious layers in us, not good, bad, right, wrong, but it's really about when you become aware of it, bringing it from the unconscious to the conscious. That's what this conversation is really about bringing it to people's awareness so that we can have open conversations about it. Because most of the time, the healing, not most of the time, all of the time, in my experience, the healing comes in when we can really be so aware of our own self, because really we can't change anyone else or anything else. We can only change ourselves. So when we can tune in and become so aware, oh, I'm going there again, and not beat ourselves up, but just be so aware that we're doing that, and then we can start, making better choices for ourselves, which in return, what I've also found is it almost gives others the freedom to feel like, oh, it's okay. Like, I love seeing this is something personal, but I love to see what would classify as I say a curvy woman, but the media may say overweight woman, but how she rocks her body, like she really feels good in it. And I look at that and I'm inspired by that, because to be able to, kind of be that bold person that doesn't, that owns her life, owns who she is, and men as well. But, so I know I'm rambling a lot here, but so much was coming up to me about comparing and about how really my message to anyone watching and my golden nugget is really about just being aware when the unconscious pattern, because obviously if you're recognizing it, Erin, like you're going, okay, this is what me and my wife used to do. Okay, so let's talk about it, honey. Let's do something different. If we used to get together and have pizza, okay, let's make pizza, but let's do a gluten-free blah, 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 blah. Let's make a healthier choice. So I don't know who has any take on that. I know we're getting close to our time here, but did that trigger anyone?
Yes, I would love to chime in. And so, that's the first thing that I have my clients do is really stop the comparison game, because, the brief answer to why, we're wired that way. We have special neurons in our brains called mirror neurons that when we're little babies, it's useful to compare ourselves to other people. That's how we learn to walk and talk and function in society so quickly. But as we get older, it's like those mirror neurons don't have anything to do, so they start the comparison game with, oh, look at her, she's so much better than I am, how come I can't do that? And then we start beating ourselves up. So the first thing that I have my clients do, and what I had to do for my own journey, healing journey, you got to stop the comparison game, and you've got to really bring awareness, which we've been talking about, to doing it. It's amazing when you start paying attention to the negative thoughts in the comparison game, how often you do it and not even notice you're doing it. It's like subconscious. And so to really start bringing awareness is the first step, and to just then stop and replace that with some of that positivity and show yourself a little bit of compassion. So I don't know if Erin or Holly or Nancy, you want to chime in, but that's what came to me.
I do, and I know we're getting close to the end, but I kind of want to hear everybody's like advice on like that you could share with people. And you guys keep saying comparison, and I didn't even realize that, but you're right, because even if I think about when I'm like bored for 5 minutes and I'm scrolling down Instagram, and a lot of it is like the workout people and like these girls, and they're like totally looking slim, and everybody, oh, try this tea, or try these fat burning pills, or try this workout, like all this stuff. I keep seeing the same body type, and guess what? Every time I look down, I'm like, I don't look like that. And I'm like, shoot, I got another 2 more inches left. And then I'm like, wait. And so what I've done now, and this is literally like a week ago, I was like noticing that I keep doing that, and I'm like, okay, stop it. And what I do now is, now when I see that, yes, it does trigger this like sense of insecurity, like, ooh, what was that? I bring it up, and I'm like, you know what part of my body am I thankful for? Which part of my body do I love? And then I start focusing in on it, like, ooh, I love the way that my legs are getting toned, or like little things like that I start kind of like, I'm starting to change that little pattern of, instead of going into that, oh shoot, I don't look like that, oh my god, I got another 2 weeks of starving myself, none of that. I like stop. I'm aware of it now, and I'm like, okay, what part of my body do I love? Like, oh my god, I'm loving my legs, how they're, and then I love it. I'm like, yay, I get to go to the gym, but not because of, dang it, I need to lose an extra 5 pounds. It's because I love the way it makes me feel, and I feel healthy and energized. So I think that's where it all comes to. I mean, does anybody have any little golden nugget they want to share?
Absolutely. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, ladies first, please.
Oh, okay, because I'll just keep talking. Okay, so first of all, one of the things that is not taught in school, and you're a teacher and you can say this, I'm sure you'll agree with me, Erin, is self-love. Okay, there is not enough self-love in school. Okay, and so it's up to us as parents, as adults, to teach people about self-love, because what happens when you get out of school, you're done, like I was saying, I got out of school, I thought I was done learning. That is not true. In order to love, you have to love yourself first. Really, that if you're going, any piece of advice, I'm married to my high school prom date. Okay, I've known him for 26 years. I started dating when I was 16 years old, and I'm 40 years old now. So, like, or maybe math is wrong. Math was never my strong suit. But anyways, I'm 40, and it's, the number 40 is so significant. If you read the Bible, I encourage you to do that. If you don't, that's fine too. But the number 40 is listed in the Bible 140 times. It is so very significant. I turned 40, my life changes. Once you turn 40, everything looks different. You know what happened on the 40th day when my daughter had that argument with her friend? I asked her which more important, her because I told her to unfriend her on social media, that streak that she had on Snapchat. It would have been her 40th day, because she wanted to have that streak on Snapchat. What's more important, the 40-day streak or the negative energy that's on your timeline? Because those negative, that energy can go on your timeline, that Snapchat, all of those things, remove yourself from that. So then after I told her to do that, then I had her look up in Google, because Google can be your best friend, right? When you don't know the answers, you look it up, right? And it says Bible was, it's mentioned 140 times, the number 40 in there. It's very significant. Learn to love yourself so you can love others, and that's why we're all here, to love each other.
I love it. I agree with what Holly was saying. You talk about loving yourself, and I'm chuckling to myself right now because I'm writing little notes down right next to me of what I want to talk about and different things. And I had it circled in my last little nugget of thing, and it said, you love yourself. I wrote it down before you even said anything. And I'm very fortunate in the position that I have being a special education teacher. A lot of my fellow teachers teach every single period back to back to back. I actually have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to my teaching. So I get special education students in here as well as gen ed students in here. And I always tell them one story when we talk about self-image and loving yourself. And I said, who is your best friend? And then they go and name somebody. And I said, I want you to start thinking about yourself as your best friend, because you will live with yourself for the rest of your life. You can choose to hate yourself and choose not to love yourself, but you will still be stuck with yourself for 60 years. So my challenge to you would be to find out whatever you can, that little trigger, that little nugget for you to finally love yourself, because in the end, you are with yourself forever, and that's all that really matters.
Love that. Dr. Mary, do you have a golden nugget you want to share?
I think I would just add to what everybody else is saying. You know, I'm a huge proponent of self-love. 40 was when I started realizing I needed to love myself. I'm 42 now. And, you know, that it's a Rumi quote that I want to leave you with, and that is, no one is more deserving of your own love than you. And that's the motto that I now live my life by, because, you know, as we've been talking about, if you can't love yourself, then you really cannot give love, nor can you receive it. It's got to start with you. And it's not selfish. Self-love is not the same thing as narcissism. I think in society, you know, we have that myth or stereotype going on. You've got to love you. You've got to fill your own cup, and then you can give from your overflow. But you got to take care of you and show yourself some love and appreciation every day.
Totally love that, Mary. That's what I was going to say, is you can't pour from an empty cup, and boy, I've sure learned that lesson. And you know, you guys, this is so awesome. So I kind of just want to recap a little bit. I was kind of writing down some notes. All of us brought up some really good things, but be your own best friend. Surround yourself with positivity. What was the other one? Don't compare yourself. And really about being mindful of what it is that you're doing, and make different choices and decisions, and bring it from the unconscious to the conscious. So I really, really, really enjoyed our conversation. And Nancy, before I kind of close everything, is there anything that you kind of want to add? And I'm just so sending love to everyone, and just really appreciate this conversation today.
No, you know what? I just want to thank every person on this call. You know, Holly, Aaron, Dr. Mary. It's super interesting to hear others' perspectives or what they're dealing with. You know, I don't have any kids, so when I'm hearing you guys say this, I'm like, I haven't gone through it, but I'm the child who went through it. So then I'm like, okay, it stops with me. And just little things that I'm like, I know that if I have children, that's one of the biggest things that I think is going to be, you know, being a confidence coach, that's one of the biggest things that, you know, I'm going to have to pass that on. I want to pass on the good things, and you know, and filter out the yucky stuff that's, you know, in within each and every one of us that, you know, gets passed on from other generations. But I think it's awesome that this is brought to the awareness, and that we're sharing this, and that it's going to be, you know, shared with more and more people out there. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And I'm just going to, you know, say, for those of you who don't know about Sisterhood Connections, we love new sisters. It's really about women's empowerment and really getting your soul fed each and every day. So come and check us out. And our website is sisterhoodconnections.org. We have a lot of fun things planned. And next month, Nancy, we're going to really hopefully be able to bring all of the book authors in from our group and be able to talk about our book launch and all the buzz about that, and maybe even some of the other new coaches. But also, tomorrow's a special day, right? It's Mother's Day, and so we at Sisterhood Connections want to send a very happy Mother's Day out to all of those mothers, and even those, because it comes to mind, you know, some of those single fathers out there that are playing that role as a mom. So, you know, I just am seeing that, you know, if you're watching this as a replay, you know, even a year from now, and you are struggling with, you know, any of these things that we brought up with, even not having confidence and some body image stuff, you know, check out. We'll have links to Dr. Mary and everyone, so that you can, you know, have some resources. And I think the biggest thing is surround yourself with positive people. Always, always, always a winner, okay? So I personally am sending love from my heart to each one of you guys out there. And until next time, be blissful. Thank you for joining.